Everything you desire is waiting for you to claim it. There's no creating involved, only invention through imagination and building through action. You are at the center of all your desires, dreams, and achievements. Welcome to Designing Your Life Today, the podcast that's all about your success, achieving your goals, building wealth through your business, and building your most passionate, powerful, magnificent life. Discover ways to use your purpose to connect you to serving others and living your dreams. I am Pat Council, and I know you are built by design to win. And it all begins with knowing how to tap into your success energy. Let's get on the path of discovery, decisive action, development, and unwavering dedication to your life's calling. It's time to embark on a transformative journey where your deepest passions become your most rewarding achievements. Embrace your power to shape your destiny, because this is your moment to do life with power. Hello, Power Up Nation. I'm Pat Council, and on Designing Your Life Today, I want to talk about the fact that consequences go both ways. And this is our another perspective segment. And I want to talk about consequences, the fact that consequences go both ways because of what's happening. Now, you guys know I don't watch the news. So if I find out about it, that means someone either told me or I saw it on the internet. Sometimes I see it on YouTube, the times that I watch YouTube, but you have to be under a rock not to know what's going on, or pretty much not necessarily under a rock, but you have to pretty much have tuned everything out. But with that being said, the reason why I want to talk about the fact that consequences go both ways is because of what happened to Jaden Ivey. Now, I am not really a sports fan. If you ask me my favorite basketball team, I couldn't answer that question. I don't have a favorite. My favorite football team, I couldn't answer that question because I don't have a favorite. And I've shared this before that I don't really watch sports, but I do watch kind of the playoff and, more importantly, the championship games. I love to see two champions competing, and because that means they are both they both have to give their all in order for one of them to emerge victoriously. So I find that to be exciting. With that being said, I wanted to talk about the fact that consequences go both ways, because what happened to Jaden Ivey, that goes a little bit deeper than what we see on the surface. And what I mean by that, this is an example of what people are doing today. People are choosing to go against what's right for the sake of a dollar. So if they can get paid, or if they're afraid of losing their jobs, if they're afraid of being cast out and being excluded from something, they're going to go with what's wrong. The other thing is, when no one says anything about it, then it becomes okay to not do the right thing, or it becomes easier for other people to do the right thing or the wrong thing, and it sets a precedence. In other words, that can happen in corporate America, and it's probably happening already. I don't have any proof, but it's probably happening already. It's just done, I guess, on a much lower scale. In other words, someone who's not so visible. Now, I feel for Jaden Ivey, but here's the other side to that. And that's why this is called Another Perspective. The other side to that is what he did, I find it to be so courageous. And he is such a great example of a person who said, you know what? I don't care how much money you pay me. I am not going to go against God. And I find that to be just, as I said, it's heroic, it's obedient, it's all of the above. And I've seen some of the videos on YouTube because I became a little bit interested in this. And I said, okay, let's see what some of the other people are saying. Well, I've heard some say, well, he signed a contract and it was his job to follow their rules. Well, the other side to that is if you don't want to follow the rules, he took the nearest exit, or he didn't kind of bow down. But here's the thing about contracts. And unless I'm wrong, contracts cannot supersede the laws of the land. They don't override or negate the Constitution. So dude had freedom of speech, and it's not like he was running around telling everyone and being disruptive. From what I understand, he wasn't disruptive when it came to his teammates. He was a good teammate. So with that being said, when we talk about the fact that consequences go both ways, while Jaden Ivey may be suffering from the consequences of using his freedom of speech, well, the consequences can go the other way. And I wanted to talk about this because I want people to understand you don't have to allow people who have money to control your life and to make you feel like you don't matter. And this is why so many people are unhappy and so many people are complaining. So you don't have to put up with this, because this dude gave up $100 million. That was his new contract, from what I understand. But here's the thing. As I said, consequences, they go both ways. We're talking about the NBA. All right. So what makes the NBA or the NFL or the MLB, Major League Baseball, I think I'm saying that right, what makes them so popular? What makes it such that they can pay these players an astronomical amount of money? And I don't begrudge that. You know, I'm an entrepreneur, and we live in a capitalist country. So I think you should make as much money as your gifts and talents will allow, okay, as the market will bear. I mean, these guys, it's not like they're stealing the money, these players, all right? They're being offered this money to get out there and play a game. But with that being said, when I keep saying consequences go both ways, let me get to the point. The NBA, they're able to pay the players the kind of money that they pay them because it's a supply and demand issue, meaning people will spend huge amounts of money to get a ticket to go to these games, to go live. Okay. They spend thousands of dollars to get their own little box where they can sit and watch the game in private and be served, I don't know, chicken wings and things like that. I was invited. This has been probably maybe 20 years ago, to an NFL game. And this was as a result of me doing at a speaking engagement. So I had a presentation and I was paid to come in and speak and share information. And one of the perks, I guess they gave me, because they felt, all right, she's in our town, let's entertain her, is I got to go into the skybox, as it's called. And it's pretty amazing up there because, all right, all the little snacky things and drinks, and I don't drink alcohol, but sodas or whatever. I don't drink sodas either, but whatever drinks, and I didn't drink them back then either. So, but it was all free, okay, to me. So the point that I'm making is this thing, it costs thousands of dollars to get that box. It's probably well over six figures now. So the point that I'm making is people are spending this money, and the NBA makes this money. They sell the jerseys, all of the different paraphernalia that they sell, all of these things. So they're making, I'm going to say, billions of dollars. And not in the low billions, like 1 or 2 billion. I'm guessing it's like double digit billions, like 10 billion or more. So they make this money, but you know what? They couldn't make this money if people didn't show up to the games, if people didn't pack those stadiums. They couldn't. If people didn't watch the games on TV, if corporate America didn't spend millions of dollars to buy sponsorships. Okay, if they didn't pay for sponsorships, they didn't pay to get their commercials on during the games. I don't know if State Farm is still one of the major sponsors, but there was a time when you would always see a State Farm commercial during these games on televisions, and you'd see more than one. And there were other, not just State Farm, there were other corporations that would do this as well. And so they are raking in the money. Nobody, no sponsor pays money to watch something or to participate. They want to participate in something that people don't want to participate, that the masses aren't interested in. So people love basketball. I don't know how many millions of people love basketball. I'm not one of them. I'm not in love with it. But as I said, hey, when it's time for the championship game, I like that. Okay. So, and I'm guessing that when it's time for the championship game, the cost of the sponsorships are way up because the number of viewers and the number of participants, those numbers go way up. The same thing with the NFL, and also probably Major League Baseball, MLB. There it is. So with that being said, you guys, and I think that's their initials, but I know it's Major League Baseball. With that being said, here are the consequences. It goes both ways. You get rid of a guy because he exercised his freedom of speech, not in a belligerent way, not in a disruptive way, not in a loud way. He was just expressing his own opinion on his channel, online, to his followers. These are people who are interested in him. These are people who already know that he's a Christian. Okay. And they want to hear what he has to say. So, I guess you see that as a threat, because if he starts saying that, then yeah, maybe they view him as cutting into their monies. However, when you start doing that, and interfering with people's freedom of speech, the other side, here's the other consequence. All right. So he suffered the consequence. He got fired or waived. I love how they have polite names for firing people, like downsize, let go, waived. Okay. Fired. So he got fired. And here's the thing. All right. So that's his consequence. All right. But the other side to that coin is, it is time for people to pick a side, for goodness sake, and to stop being afraid. If a large number of people say, you know what, I'm not buying a ticket to the NBA, to go to any of these games, and I'm done with them until they make some kind of change. This isn't about Jaden Ivey specifically. He's just, let's say, perhaps the catalyst. Okay. And this is about you being very realistic about what you're giving people permission to do, not just to Jaden Ivey, but you're now giving them permission to do that to you, potentially. It depends on what kind of job you have. It depends on what you do for a living. So you're now giving them permission to do this. So our country is, it seems as though it's starting to become more and more, I want to say, controlling. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something about control. And you guys can, do your own homework and look this up yourself. You know, a controlling spirit is a form of witchcraft. Look it up. It is written. And so what this means is that these are people who are seeking to dominate others. So it always starts small. And we go, okay, well, we look at it from a money standpoint. Okay, the financial standpoint. Well, you know, he's walking away with, I think, 10 million or whatever it is they owe him. Well, they have to pay him that. That should be enough for him to get going and get started. It's not about that. You have to look deeper than the money. A lot of times we look at the money and we go, well, they make enough money as it is. And all the money he's made for the little time that he's been there, hopefully, you're thinking he saved it, not you, but some people are thinking, well, he saved it and he can invest that and he can, grow. But either way, he is a multimillionaire. This isn't what that's about. This is about a spirit of control. It is a spirit of witchcraft. So what does that mean for us as citizens in the US of A? Okay, that means that when something this bold, this blatant happens to someone who's making this kind of money, first of all, it means that instead of looking at the money, you need to look at the reasoning behind all of this. This is about a spirit of rebellion. Now, what he did was he refused to He didn't want to participate in, I think, Gay Pride Month or week or whatever. He didn't want to participate in that. And here's the thing. I mean, unless we have a new America, which it seems like we might be headed that way, we are actually free, should be free to participate in whatever it is we want to participate. The same way when Christmas rolls around, there are people who don't celebrate Christmas. I mean, it's not like we kick them out of the country for that. So it's about choice. And it is about freedoms. Okay, that's what America is supposed to stand for. But the message I'm trying to convey to you is that consequences go both ways. So whenever you have the opportunity or the chance where you have to stand up and do the right thing or say the right thing, if you decide, well, I'm going to keep my mouth shut and I'm going to do this for the sake of $1, okay, because I'm going to lose my job, what you're saying is you don't trust that God will take care of you. And I know you're thinking, well, you have to work. Yes, you do, but he will provide. I can promise you that. And I can tell you, there are things or I've walked away from, and I would think to myself, oh my goodness, what were you thinking? Are you crazy? And it wasn't this kind of extreme thing that's happening now. This is something where, okay, do you know how much money you can make with this? So it's not just about the money. It is about your value system. It is about what you stand for. And as I said, the other perspective is you have to understand that while the NBA is doing this, and I don't know when this is going to happen, but I know it will happen. Okay, there's a consequence on their end. The Bible says you reap what you sow. And so they are sowing some really not good seeds. And before you guys some of you get upset, this isn't about Gay Pride Week. This is about the overall concept of following God's law, spiritual law. People want to make money. People want to be successful. People want to feel at peace. People want to have a place to stay. They want to have a place to live. They want to be excited about getting up in the morning. None of that is going to happen if you operate under that spirit of witchcraft. Because at that point, your life is no longer your own. So I want to say to you, it's time for you to pick a side. And I'm so excited to see, and I didn't watch all the videos on YouTube because I'm sure there are lots of them out there about Jaden Ivey, but I'm so excited to see those who did say something. But what's disappointing is how, I guess, his brethren, meaning his teammates, kept their mouths shut. Now, did they keep their mouths shut because they said, we're okay with Gay Pride Week? All right. We have choices. You can choose. All right. Now, that's also written in the Bible. God tells us to choose life over death. And so he says, I hope you'll choose life. So he tells us to choose these things. And when he's saying choose life, he's saying, I hope you'll choose my way. But he gives you the freedom to think you can go it alone. And I'm amazed that with the way things are today, people can't see that them going it their way and adopting the philosophies that are against, even if you don't believe in God, that aren't necessarily against God, but against just basic universal law and spiritual laws that apply regardless of religion. Okay. And they think that they can supersede that and their life is going to be okay. I can tell you from experience, it's not. Okay. It is not. So I don't want to preach to you guys, but I did want to talk about the fact that consequences it goes both ways. And so whichever side you pick, you have to, I would suggest that you see if you can look ahead, use your wisdom. Okay. Don't be in the moment. And don't go, okay, I'm not going to say anything or I'm not going to take a stand because people won't like me. You know what? Here's the thing about people not liking people that don't take a stand. Well, they might seem to like you, but they don't respect you because they can feel that you are a pushover. Okay. They can recognize people who are pushovers. So the thing is that you have to decide which, pick a side, and I have to confess, there have been times throughout my life where just to keep the peace, I've kept my mouth shut, or just to keep a relationship, intact in terms of keeping the peace in that relationship. I've not said the things that I thought, the things that I felt. Okay. And even in a nice way. All right. And so here's the thing. And you know what, since we're talking about that, let me just say this. Here's what happens when we just kind of hold on and we stay quiet and we stay quiet, but we're thinking it and thinking it and thinking it. It's like the volcano. One day it all erupts. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, yeah, open mouth and everything spews out because the pressure has built up to that point. Okay. And when something violates your value system to that extent, then yeah, something's one way or the other, you're going to take some kind of action, be it a verbal action, be it a physical action or something. And when I say physical, I mean, I'm talking walking away from something. So think about the sides that you pick in life and think about what you're allowing. Now, this is not about grabbing a picket sign and going and saying, oh, down with this person and down with that and all that kind of stuff. As I said in previous podcasts, a lot of times people get paid to do that. They get paid to go out and picket. And if a person doesn't have a job or they can't get a job, they'll take that money. Okay. And they'll stand for a cause. They don't have to believe in it. So, and that's been documented over and over again. So this isn't just some conspiracy theory that's coming out of my mouth. I don't do conspiracy theories, not purposely. I don't. All right. But usually when I'm saying something, I've seen the proof of it. Okay. So with that being said, I am so sorry that this happened to Jaden Ivey, but be careful. Freedom of speech is a fundamental right. But, I'll have to say this and then we're going to wrap up. People think that freedom of speech these days means I'm going to be rude. I'm going to be belligerent. I'm going to call people names. I'm going to be this obnoxious person who just spews out garbage because emotionally, I have no emotional control. That's okay. Yeah, you're being free with your speech, but it's also the other side. It's also being able to say what you think and feel and speak intelligently. Just because you spew out some swear words, that doesn't mean anything. It just shows people that you're angry. It also shows that you don't have a great command of since this is America, that you don't have a great command of the English language. It also shows that you're speaking from pure emotion and not from any kind of logic. And of course, or any type of critical thinking. And of course, AI is chipping away at that slowly and surely, but we'll talk about that another time. So the point that I'm making is, if you're going to win, and if you're going to do life with power, it's not very powerful, or it's being powerful, and it's not even a powerful feeling to not pick a side, you see. And I'm not even telling you which side to pick. I'm just saying if you don't agree with something, you don't spend money on an NBA ticket and go, well, oh, that's so unfortunate what happened to him. Oh, the NBA, they're awful. Ticket, please. No. We don't need entertainment that badly. You don't need it that badly. See, you send a strong message. People, picket signs, these days, it's pretty much a waste of time. Okay, the only thing that picket signs do is they create a kind of awareness around whatever subject those people want to create that awareness around. But in reality, America, and I said this actually 30 plus years ago, a friend of mine, she and we used to talk a lot, and I would give my opinions, and of course she would think they were ridiculous. But one of the things I used to always tell her, I've always had the same opinion about protesting. Not that I didn't ever told her I was against it. I just told her we have to understand, what it means based on the time that we're living in. But in America, as time goes on and on, one of the things that works and that has always talked much louder is money. Okay. Money, it does send a very strong message. So the point that I'm making, if the NFL or NBA rather, if they don't have people buying their tickets or watching the games, if all of a sudden that shuts down, even if it shuts down for, I don't know how many games are played, but let's say half the season. If it shuts down for half the season, do you really need to watch someone throw a ball in a hoop that much? Okay, some people are addicted to it, but and some people actually bet on the games now because they have all these apps that you can use to bet. But do you really need it that badly? And if you decide that you don't need it that badly because your value system doesn't agree with it, then perhaps you should step away for a while. Send people a message. Money talks. And that is a big issue. And we're going to talk about this on another episode because I'd have to spend another 30 minutes talking about this. But that is a big issue. There's nothing wrong with making as much money as you possibly can using your gifts and talents. Nothing. Okay. But there is something wrong with selling out. And we're going to talk about what that really means and what that's doing in this day and time. And selling out just because you can be bought. If someone offers you enough money, your value system goes out the window. I have met people from both sides. I've met wealthy people who built their wealth the right way. You know, they worked hard. They learned what they needed to learn. They sacrificed. They did what they needed to do. They were obedient. They were actually tithers. And then on the other side of the coin, I have met the ones who did it the wrong way. Okay. And that was let's say an eye-opening experience for me. And it was great that I got to see the contrast. And I can tell you right now, and I'm only thinking of about 3 people. I've met more wealthy people who did it right than the ones who didn't do it right. But I'm a person who asks questions because I try to understand people. I don't just condemn them as, oh, you're bad and you're the ultimate criminal. And I would ask them questions. And I can tell you the ones who weren't doing it right and they were selling out and pretty much selling their soul, they pretty much told me all 3 of them said the same thing. They didn't even know each other, but they all said the same thing. They said, you know what? I don't sleep at night. I have no peace. And if I had it to do over again, because they were much older, if I had it to do over again, I would do something different. I had one guy tell me, he said, I'd not like nothing more than to stop doing what I'm doing. He said, but I've been doing it so long, I don't know anything else. He said, I just know my time on this earth is going to be short. And of course, I think he was 60, 64, maybe 65. But the point that I'm making, and I'm not saying people are going to die, because they're breaking the law or whatever. That's between them and God. But the point that I'm making is the ones who did it the right way, they had that peace and they had that wonderful life. And that too is also a biblical concept. It's in Proverbs, where Proverbs talks about the fact that God will make a man rich and with it comes no sorrow. You see, Jaden Ivey, even though he turned down $100 million contract, he would have had a lot of sorrow. There would have been no peace. And the last thing I'm going to say, because I remember reading this in the Bible, and you guys can look this up on your own. And it's in Mark, the book of Mark, and in Mark 10, but don't hold me to the verse, but I know it's Mark chapter 10. So if you look it up, you will see where Jesus talks about the fact that no one who sacrifices for him, I mean, if they sacrifice their family, and he says, no, if you leave your family for me, or your house or whatever, no one who sacrifices, okay, for God's laws, okay, they might get persecuted, which Jaden Ivey, he's, going through his persecutions. They might get persecuted, but he also talks about the fact that they're going to receive a 100-fold return for those sacrifices. Now, I don't know what a 100-fold return looks like in terms of, I don't know if he's talking money. Maybe it's apple for apple, orange for orange. In other words, if they sacrifice all of their money, maybe they get a 100-fold return on the money. If they sacrifice their land, they get more land. And so maybe, and in this case, Jaden didn't sacrifice his family, but apparently his wife left him. Now, I don't know if she's going back, but the point is, she really came down hard on him, and he talks about that in one of his videos. So, but he sacrificed everything. He said his family, they were calling him crazy. They think he's mentally unstable, which, the media, that's the first thing they do. If you say, you know what, I'm going to follow God's way no matter what, all of a sudden you're this unstable person. Okay. Because what? Because you turn down money. Like, you got to be crazy to turn down the money. And like I said, there are people who had that I've met, and they had tons of money, but they had no peace. One guy said, I would give anything for a good night's sleep. He said, I don't sleep. So the thing about that is, when you pick a side, think about what you're giving up. Okay. And as God says, hey, if you give things up in my name or for me, then, the return is going to be greater. He didn't say you wouldn't have some troubles, didn't say you wouldn't, be persecuted and go through some things, but he promises that the 100-fold return. So that's all I have. That's my another perspective for today. And just keep in mind that consequences go both ways. So when you're fearing someone, coming against you, know that they've got something coming right back at them, because you always reap what you sow. Listen, you guys, I want you to have a wonderful weekend, a spiritual weekend. If you are participating in Resurrection Sunday, as it is listed on the calendar, and some people observe that. Whatever it is you observe, whatever it is you do, just make it peaceful, make it nice, and do life with power. And never, ever, ever forget that you are built by design to win.